Hi, everybody. Hi, I'm Anton. I'm here at comiccon.com for your daily dose of comic convention goodness. And I am super excited today. We have Sarah Davidson with us, and we are going to be discussing Jackson's Wilder Adventures. Hey, Sarah, how's it going?
It's going really good. I'm very excited to be here. How about yourself?
It's been a day. It's been a day. Today has been one of those days. But I am going to try to be as positive as possible. We're going to talk about funny books, and that always makes me happy.
Heck,
So before we dig in, could you please tell our audiences just a little bit about yourself, kind of so they can familiarize yourself with the creator before we get into the creation?
absolutely. So I'm Sarah Davidson. I'm a comic book artist that primarily focuses on like early reader and middle grade. I just finished up grad school at the Savannah College of Art and Design. Literally just graduated like 3 weeks ago.
Go Scat.
So it's finally done. It was great. And yeah, I've done like a ton of freelance comic work. But Jackson's Wilder Adventures is my first solo book, which is very exciting.
Well, I mean, and it's a super fun book too, because one of the things, I mean, I've loved comics since a very early age, and one of the things that I also kind of remember thinking back is I've always been a super avid reader, and so like there's sort of this quality of like picture books and who, what, when, where, why books, right? Where you're reading through them and they're very informative. They're kind of like the listicle books where it's like, this is why sloths, eat the way they eat, and this is, why are birds flying south for the winter? And so those sort of like little bits of information that you could kind of digest as a kid were always a ton of fun. Like that's what I gravitated towards, that and stories about like monsters. Like those were the things that I really enjoyed. So what you've done is kind of amazing because it feels to me like you've kind of combined those two sort of genres of like the listicle kid book and like the really brilliantly done sequential storytelling of like a graphic novel. Was that intentional, or is it just like, I'm going to do this and it's going to be rad? Like, how did we get here?
Yeah, it was very purposeful. So the entire series was inspired by my nephew Jackson, who he's one of those kids who he knew like every name of every shark. His first word was octopus. Like he would school you about dinosaur facts. Like just one of those super nature kids. And he was at that sort of age range when he was about 7, where he was getting a little too old for picture books. And most of like the nature-y books in his reading range were, like you said, just like lists of cool facts, which was fun, like short term. But he wasn't quite at the reading level yet to do like full chapter books or like the science comics that are put out through First Second, which are amazing, but they were just like a little bit of a too high reading level for him. So I was like, why is there not a thing in between where it's like you're too old for picture books, but you're not quite old enough for chapter books? You want to learn cool science-y stuff, but you also want a fun story and cool characters to go along with it.
Well, you landed at Papercutz, right? Which is, they're an imprint Mad Cave. I love them. They do. I always feel like they're the publisher that fits the need, right? There's always like these spaces that exist where somebody's like, man, I wish somebody would do something in that space. And it's kind of cool now to kind of look at everything that they're doing, their library of books, and say like, oh wow, that's Papercutz has done this, or Maverick has got something in this space, or Mad Cave's got something in this space. So it delights me that you're at Papercutz. They were just at ALA. Were you at ALA as well?
I was there too. It was my first ALA. It was a wild experience.
My friend Gabe, who works on Digital Lizards of Doom, he got off the plane at the airport and texted me and he was like, "Are you here?" And I'm like, "No, bud, I'm not going to be there this weekend, but thanks for asking." And not even an hour later, somebody at a different publisher was like, "Hey, are we going to go do drinks?" I'm like, "I'm not there. I didn't. At no point did I say I was going to be there this year. Chicago's next year, maybe." But I wasn't even going to be there. And it sounded like it was amazing. Everybody had really great feedback. They said it was a seriously good time. And I love that you get to go to these kind of events and speak firsthand to librarians, because I, working in the kind of the journalism space, I do a lot with like gaming and comics. So we have educators and like parents reach out and they're like, "Hey, I want to start this gaming club at my library," or like, "Hey, I want to do this." And they're so tuned in and involved. I don't remember parents being that tuned in and involved when I was a kid. Like I remember like the street lights are on, maybe you could come home. I don't know. We'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
exactly. Like my dad would just drop me off at the library after school because he had other things to do, and I would just stay there for hours by myself. And I'm like, okay, I guess this is just what we do.
So what did you read in those early years? Like what was your kind of like interim into kind of the writing reading fields?
Everything. When I was in second grade, I literally read every book in my school library, except for the boy books, like the Hardy Boys. I was like, I don't read boy books.
But
But
those were a little weird anyways. Like yeah, that's
it was,
awesome.
it was Babysitter's Club. It was like every fantasy book I could get my hands on. A lot of Calvin and Hobbes.
Heck yeah. And Calvin and Hobbes is cool that you loop that in there. I read Calvin and Hobbes. I started at a very young age as well, and it was I'm a wheelchair user. I was on loft and crutches when I was younger, but now I'm full time in my chair, and so I never had gym class. So I just got to sit around and read comics and like books in the libraries when I was a kid because they didn't want to throw me in a place where somebody would wing a kickball in my head. And so that Calvin and Hobbes dynamic was immediately something that sort of felt like it was paralleled in Jackson's Wilder Adventures, because you have this wonderfully smart little kid and their imaginary friend who was a thylacine, right? Am I getting that right? Excellent.
Yep,
Awesome. I'm not Attenborough. I wish I was. And I thought the thylacine was an awesome choice. It's one of those words that I've seen written so many times, but it's like I never hear it, so you don't know how to say it on the ear. What was what went into the process of going like, I'm gonna pick an extinct animal as this kid's like companion? Because that's a genius choice, I think. Like, how did you get there?
Yeah, so part of it was like I thought it would be fun if it was an extinct animal, just because they wouldn't run into a real world version of it while they're out like exploring nature and things like that. Like I didn't want that incongruity of like, this is the mental version of an imaginary extinct animal next to the real version of that animal. But mostly it came because, again, Calvin and Hobbes influence. Hobbes is a tiger. A thylacine is also known as a Tasmanian tiger. And I knew I wanted to name him Irwin after Steve Irwin. So the fact that it was like an Australian tiger just all kind of came together.
Grinning from ear to ear, because both of those things immediately struck me, and I was like, this is really clever. There's like levels here, and it's genius. I love these books. They're wonderful. It's really cool because like the format that you've put together kind of stands out in that space of like chapter book and picture book and sort of sequential book, and you live in this like really cool cross section, and you've created like this awesome hybridized style with your art too. And I mean, you're an artist. Like, how did developmentally, were you just like, this is the look I want to go with, or was like there was a lot of R&D and sketchbooks? Like, how did you get to kind of that point?
It all just kind of came together naturally. I kind of knew I wanted these really detailed rendered backgrounds with like the juxtaposition of these really like graphic cartoony characters. It's sort of like a trait from old school animation that I personally really love, and I try to incorporate that into a lot of my art.
That's so cool because it does. It looks like glass painted, like where they do the glass paint in the background and then they have the cell animation in the foreground. And I mean, because it creates this beautiful depth of field in some of the panels. Like, I'm imploring our listeners, you got to go pick these up. They're really rad because they're like beautiful. Like, you do have this sort of like dreamy, ephemeral feel to the comic itself. And like, I think that really makes them stand out in a landscape where sometimes it feels like, especially now, there are a lot of, we'll call them companies, who are kind of pushing sort of a generative image thing that's happening. And they all look kind of weird and multi-fingery and strange. And I'm not a fan at all. And so to see this,
it looks so digital. It's like,
it's
I like seeing the hand of the artist on the page, even if it was all digital. I work digitally. I work in Clip Studio, but like I want to see that a person made it,
And you can feel that in these panels because there's these really interesting dynamic angles. And like sometimes when you break like there'll be no gutters, and you'll sort of break out, and you'll just have like big sort of scenes where it just lives on the page. It like exists in the space, and there's weight to it. And then it's great because I take a step back and I'm like, man, how cool is it to be a kid, be able to pick something like this up and have like a reference, right? Because then you have to also, considering things that I would do as a child, you notebook paper, right? Those would go over books, and then you're tracing, and it's like, what a cool jump off point of being able to like, I want to emulate that style. Is that a consideration as well? Have you seen like fan art where kids are like, man, I dig this, and I'm gonna draw the characters and like mail them off? I mean, or am I just the only nerd that did that when I was 7 or 8? Man.
I have not seen any fan art for my books. If people are doing fan art of Jackson and Irwin, please find a way to send it my way. Tag me on Instagram. I would love to see like kids versions of these characters, or like, you know, they're being inspired to draw animals and nature and stuff because of my little books. Like that would be amazing.
They're little, but they're rad. They're big in a heart way. And like, so like animals, right? Did you do all the research for the animal facts? Like, are you somehow connected to like that back end network of like ornithologists and like biologists and stuff? I mean, because these facts are solid. Like, as somebody who has nature documentaries playing fairly often, I mean, I got a projector for our room just to put on Blue Planet at night. Like, where are you getting all your facts from? Like, this is awesome.
Initially I went into it thinking I would do all of the research myself. You know, like I was also like, I like all of the BBC nature documentaries. I watched a lot of Crocodile Hunter. I was like, I got this. I can do this. I very quickly hit a wall where it's like, oh, my Googling abilities are not actually enough to get me through like interesting things. Like I wanted to give kids stuff that they wouldn't just find on a BuzzFeed top 10 cool animal facts list. But that was kind of my level of knowledge. So I actually found a wildlife ecologist on Reddit. Her name is Kelly Zimmerman, and she has been like my consultant on these books. So I'll go to her and I'll be like, hey, I'm making a story where I need to know about animals who sleep for a long time. What you got? And she would like give me a whole list of like, oh, well, this critter does this and this critter does this. I can do more research into this if you want me to. So she's been really fantastic in helping me find like the cool, obscure things that I wouldn't have been able to find for myself, and to double check my facts and make sure I'm not lying to a bunch of kids.
I mean, I love that. I mean, it makes sense that you would go to somebody who is an expert, but like that extra bit of care is really cool because, you know, once you get a factoid, like as an adult, if you tell me something new, I am a very focused on special interest person. So once you tell me something new, I'm telling as many people as possible that I've learned something today. So I can imagine little kids, they're going to be repeating this, you know, ad nauseum as much as possible, which I think is cool because like the Arctic tern and its gross factor of eating, you'll know what I'm talking about when you read these books later, friends. It's good stuff. It's real good stuff. So that, I believe that was in the first book.
Yep.
The second one is just out, right? It's recently released.
Yeah, just came out last month.
Awesome. And they can pick that up online. You can grab it. Like, is it in big box stores yet, or are we just in boutique shops?
It should be like at least orderable through like Barnes and Noble and Target and things like that. You know, Amazon, the usuals.
Excellent. So, and I mean, by all means, you don't have to tell me. Are we getting more? Are we looking to the future? Can we talk about that at all?
I don't think it's a secret that there's going to be another one. So I think I'm allowed to tell the world that yes, there is going to be a book 3. 3 will probably be the final one, but it's got some story bits that I think are very tender and very sweet, and will maybe tug on some heartstrings a little bit.
I love that. And with you sort of rounding out this trilogy with a third one, are there other things that might be on the horizon that we can look forward to you working on? Because I know you like worked on Super Boba Cafe and Swing. Like very multi-talented, multifaceted person. Like we had a delightful time, me and the Mad Cave team, talking about you as we were setting up the interview, and like I was very stoked that we get to sit and talk. So like, what else? What else do we have going on that we can talk about?
Yeah, so coming out soon, I was the colorist for Princess Guinevere and the Jewel Riders, and volume 2 of that will be coming out in August. I colored another graphic novel for Audrey Meeker, so her next book, Last One Picked, is coming out next year sometime. And then I've got 2 original middle grade graphic novels that will be coming out through Random House over the next couple of years as well.
I love that. That's so fun. It's awesome having you here, and I really can't wait till we circle back. This is just a good time. So, looking, you've wrapped up school stuff. You're working on some new projects. All of these things seem like we're kind of moving along nicely in the space. If you had your druthers, if you could pick what next project it would be, what would you work on? You have like a big eye in the sky, kind of like, I want to do that thing.
I really want to do a magical girl comic. I love magical girls, everything about them. I grew up on them. I literally have a Sailor Moon tattoo.
Oh, I love it. That's amazing.
Information brooch and Tuxedo Mask's pocket watch.
I love it.
So I have an idea for a magical girl series. Think like Magical Girl meets Fern Gully. And in a perfect, ideal future, it will happen. Fingers crossed.
That's amazing. I see you have a stand mixer behind you. My wife is a baker by trade, or not by trade, but by hobby. And she just made a Sailor Moon cake for one of our friends' birthdays, and it's got like the palms and the hair that went around the sides. It was a ton of fun. That's rad, man. I'm a big fan of the magical girl genre, and there's a lot of stuff in that space that I think bringing new voices to it could be super cool, especially with your style. I feel like that's rad. That's just amazing.
Like I feel like I would have so much fun with it. Like it would just be fun.
This has been just an absolute delight. I can't wait till we talk again. Hopefully it's very soon. I am a very privileged person who gets to hang out with most of the Mad Cave team most of the time. So hopefully we will cross paths incredibly soon and get to talk more about all of the amazing stuff that you were doing. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I super appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.